Welcome back to Comic Book Nation Season 6, the only show where we do it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is my team of Janelle Wheeler and Matthew Aguilar. What's up, guys? Happy Friday.
Hi. Excited to be
Happy
here.
Friday.
Happy Friday.
So, we don't have a major movie review this week. There were not that many big TV finales except Star Trek Discovery, and see our good buddy Jamie Lovett's breakdown of that finale on comicbook.com. But we still have plenty to talk about today. So we are going to be getting into the end of an X-Men era. Not the one you think. Sorry, X-Men 97 fans. We're going to talk about the new big trailer Disney dropped. An MCU movie is in trouble, and the cast, even as we speak right now, the cast of Knives Out 3 continues to get stacked up with some crazy names. And we have a comicbook.com exclusive that may be a big hint about the future direction of the DCU. In addition to that, we got a bunch of stuff on streaming we decided we're going to kind of geek out about today. So we'll be talking about the Netflix movie Atlas. I think we're going to have some time to get into our Madam Web convo. We couldn't do it last week. Janelle wasn't with us, but she's back. And she watched Madam Web. So thoughts.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm going to review a couple of horror movies, one on streaming and one in theaters, because we like to cover our bases and do it all for geek culture. So that's everything in our show today. Let's get right into it, starting at the top. There's this popular meme trend these days, right? It's like the jump from 2019 to 2024 has been so violent. And there's like pictures people put up of like 2019 them and then 2024 them, or different ways of expressing that transition. Which is funny to me because I just started kind of chuckling to myself because that's basically the span of this podcast, right? So yeah, we've been on that jump and we've had to podcast our way through it. And that whole journey began with Matt and I getting to talk about House of X and it becoming probably the first major running topic on Comic Book Nation so many moons ago. The X-Men was getting this crazy reboot under Jonathan Hickman. We followed each issue. There were theories. Remember the theories? And we just kind of got into so much X-Men minutia. And then we threw Janelle in the middle of it and we're like, keep up. And, we're some dangerous men with these X-Men comics. Keep up. And so we were just throwing her in the middle of a bunch of craziness, to which she often was just like, oh my God. But a few times we had some good times. And so this week, go listen to the poll list this week where me, Matt, and Jamie Lovett get into two big events in kind of Marvel Comics, the new Green Goblin for the Ultimate Spider-Man universe and the end of the Krakoa era of X-Men. We got into a kind of discussion, but I didn't think we had enough time. And plus on the live show, I didn't think it was right for us to move on without going full circle, Matt, and coming back around to this. So on Wednesday, we always have to kind of go through and read a ton of comics. And I didn't know if you had a chance to really kind of encounter and absorb any of this fall of X ending. But now it's been a couple days, the news is out. We even have a big article in Comic Book that we did about it based on our podcast discussion. How you feeling about how they landed this plane, Matt? Because we had a lot to say about when it took off. So how you feel about this landing?
Well, number one, by the way, you should absolutely check out Kofi's has several articles about the Krakoa ending that I thought were fantastic. And really also break it down to where if you missed a bunch in the middle, which, hey, a lot of people did, it gives you some very necessary context to some things. It's a mixed bag because there are some things I love and there are other things I would have loved more if we hadn't had this like weird third kind of chapter. If it had been better in this kind of final part, I probably would have enjoyed certain things more. Especially like also too, I gotta say, like it's a weird thing with X-Men and we're now entering this like new era where like people love them, again, and it's not even that they've always loved them, right? They've always had their passionate fans, but like it's a renaissance for this group in a big way. And X-Men 97 is a huge part of that. And so when you're constantly comparing something to that, I don't think it's fair. I would have loved to have seen a comparison of like Hoxpox coming out alongside 97. Like when Hoxpox was early, and then also like maybe like that second half of the first year, and it was really going strong, and then 97. I would have loved to see like the two giants at their best, as opposed to now where it's like this beaten down, like downtrodden version of Krakoa, and then 97's like up here. And so obviously like 97's, I feel like, gonna get a lot of those comparisons. It's gonna become a winner in those because you're comparing like the best of it at its peak. And to me, Krakoa was at its peak. You know, even I will say even up to about midway through, I was just really loving that. So, you know, there's several scenes here, and we're going to get into spoilers, by the way. So like there's several scenes. I love how simple, and not simple in a bad way, but like just how uncluttered the ending is for Moira, because she started this whole thing, and her ending in this, I actually love. I love the I'm free. I just everything about that I really dug. And then you pair that with the sinister Jean Grey, oh my god, finding a giant head at some point, and I'm a Dominion, all this, you put all this cosmic weight to it, and there's really cool parts of it. I didn't love all of it. And some of it was kind of clunky for me. So I don't know. I'm just kind of mixed. I'm also very sad to see this go, frankly, because I love this era of X-Men. It's X-Men at its best when it's being inventive with core concepts. So I don't know. It's mixed for me. I got to say, I'm still kind of sorting through my emotions about how this plane landed. And I am excited for the new era. I think more to the point that it's like kind of a clean slate, and we can kind of get back into that peak House of X and Powers, you know, style era for a new era, right? I'm excited for it in that way. But as far as like the specific landing this, I don't know, man. I'm kind of in the middle somewhere, and I'm a little bummed of how it landed for me.
That was like a slow, like watching something slowly slide down a hill, and then just
the more I talked about it, the more like bummed I got.
I agree with you. I think there were so in, you know, when I started to unpack this about preparing for this discussion today, kind of going over, you know, the positives and the negatives. First of all, shout out, welcome back, Treeses76, one of our longtime listeners, hasn't been on a live show in a minute. Always love to have people back in the cult. Sorry, I was watching a TikTok dance cult right before this. Now I have cults on the brain again.
I was watching the same thing, Kobe.
Yay! That's why we locked in.
So
That's why we
funny.
locked in. All right. So, yeah, I mean, oh man, I think we've been doing the wrong podcast. We got to get into these Netflix docuseries.
I watched the Ashley Madison, then went straight into the TikTok cult.
Ashley Madison just made me really mangry. I was like, who am I supposed to be rooting for in this thing? The one guy was clearly a narcissistic sociopath. That whole thing went off with the husband. And then like that big twist, he was just like, yeah, and in between my church visits, I also went to every, like, I was just like, whoa, like, what? I was like, buddy, Ashley Madison was like the least of your problems. Was like, yeah, that was a terrible thing.
If you guys want to talk about that stuff, tweet us.
yeah, terrible, awful thing. I remember that because I was working a job back in that days when that was like advertised. It was the advertising budget that always baffled me. I'm like, buddy, I'm eating my Wendy's in my office. Like, please stop sending this over my MySpace page. I don't want to. I'm not even married yet, but like, my God, like, like, you know. Yeah, I'm just here to listen to some memes. Yeah.
Mine was Cassie.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to bring that. I mean, that came up lately because everybody's been like, you know, the headlines. Everybody was like, "Who's Cassie?" And I was like, "Remember that MySpace song, Me and You?" They didn't know. They remember as soon as you said MySpace.
It really did blow up.
Yeah,
I was like,
that really does define like a pocket era. That song.
Yeah.
If you thought you were a baddie in the mid 2000s and you had a MySpace
profile?
page, what was your profile?
It was
that
on mine.
That or New American Rejects or John Mayer or Mims. This is why I'm hot. Like, you know,
man, we got two Mims references in one show.
I forgot because
does he get like a royalty or something off of that?
No, because it came back up and I was just like, oh wow, right, Mims existed. That was a thing. Like, holy good God. I mean, it's like you with your Jay Quan.
Oh yeah, promiscuous. I love that song, Promiscuous Girl.
Oh yeah, Promiscuous Girl is a big one. Yeah. MySpace profile songs. They defined who you were back then.
You did.
Wait, what were we talking?
We were talking about X-Men.
We're gonna go back up several levels of the dream now. Yeah, so yeah, there was just so many things I remembered about X-Men, and I was trying to prepare for this conversation about, and we're gonna get into the fun that I had with this, the most fun, which was talking with you guys, which was weirdly the most fun I had, more so than reading any of the ideas, but it never was this landing. Fall of X was never the sum of all the parts. Because I was just starting to recount how many series we had been through. The various X-Men, the X-Men book, X-Force, with Percy and Wolverine, Gillian's Immortal X-Men run, Al Ewing's X-Men Red run, a bunch of those other series that came and went and necessarily didn't survive. Marauders, Exterminators, which were like, I was going to pick out later, but we just might as well say was two of my favorites because of how much fun we had as a group talking about them, about how weird and crazy those were, and just the kind of crazy ideas they were just throwing at the wall with X-Men, and some of them really stuck, and all of that. This was just a fun playground of ideas. But yeah, Fall of X never was able to pull in everything and make it feel like the sum of all the parts. It never felt like as grand an answer to Hoxpox. It never felt like it took the best stuff of X-Men Red and Immortal X-Men, which had been Immortal X-Men. I can't wait for that to be in like a graphic novel. Yeah. Like that was like a chess game of storytelling across time, space, fate, choice, all that stuff. And by the end, it's just like Destiny being like, I don't know. We might die. I don't know. And it's just like, yeah, that's not really like the epic payoff I was looking for all those Immortal X-Men things. So it was just a big space fight with a giant head and a phoenix with some cosmic Wolverine claws. And, spectacle-wise, I think Gillian brought the plane down as best you could after all this. Yeah. But, they kept it simple. And, the end. And the Moira end page was powerful. That was a good one. Because it was very meta. It was just like, yeah, we're done. And, we talked about it with Jamie, but like, that's about as good a period as Marvel can ever put on anything, because no period can be written down in permanent ink, right? So this is a good little dark pencil period. It's like Moira's out of this. This whole thing is now contained in its own bubble that's now over. It happened. It's there, but it's not here anymore. But we can pick the best stuff we want and move forward with that and, leave the other stuff behind. So, and
credit to Gillen, by the way, just hearing that sentence out loud of like being able to compartmentalize that into its own little bubble, make it fit, make sure that you don't wipe it all away, because that's going to piss a lot of people off that have, found this to be one of their favorite eras. You also can't, keep it the status quo, because you got this whole new thing. To be able to do that is an incredible feat. So when I say I'm bummed by the ending, I'm really in no way blaming like the writer, the creative team, because again, this was you have to get point A to point B, and you only have so much time to do it. And for them to even be able to figure that out is impressive. So like from an editorial standpoint and all that, because I've seen some of that pop up in the comics, like absolutely, like I give flowers for that. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just bummed that it got to the situation where it had to be rushed. It had to be let's shove 8 series out at one time so we can get this plane. That's a bummer.
What was Dead X-Men even about? Like, what was that even about?
I mean, look, I remember at the time we talked about Fallen Angels. There was the series I actually liked for a while, which was it's the one with Angel and Monet, and I'm blanking on the name of it now. There have been so many series
X-Corp?
along the way. X-Corp, yes.
Yeah.
Hellions
was great. Oh man,
Hellions was great. But if you look at a lot of the series, there's only about a handful that you can pick out and go, yeah, this really actually had an effect on something that to the wider story. Like for me, this Krakoa will never. The high bar was Marauders. Was the first series of Marauders. Jerry Dugan like knocked out, but that is to me, I will forever hand that book to people and go, whether you liked Krakoa, you liked whatever, just read this. It's awesome. It's like X-Men at their best, and it's the cool ideas of Krakoa and everything in one thing. And there were several of those along the way, but there was also a lot of filler. And not even necessarily good filler. So I get it. I understand. I'm just bummed.
Yeah. Things for the MCU. Let's just kind of ground this. I don't think you don't need the timey-wimey weirdness unless that's multiversal stuff. But I would like to see them retain this idea of mutants being these people who work in circuits to use their powers, because that's going to be visually pretty awesome on screen. And we've seen some of that in X-Men 97 and how cool that is. Like, yeah, Wolverine's Gambit claws, that's awesome. Like kind of stuff like that when they all work in tandem. So I hope we get that. And I hope we get the kind of messy politics that some of them that Krakoa introduce, that I hope we get mutants. I know the hated and feared thing is easy to do, but I hope we get the more complicated mechanics of when this group begins to figure out how to have its own power holds in the world and stuff like that, and like how that complicates things.
Yeah, I agree. I also think I want them to have fun with certain we don't get X of Swords if you're not willing to have some fun and go a little bonkers. And also all the politicking and behind the scenes, even amongst the mutants themselves, I think is huge. But I think I really think if Krakoa has one thing that no other X-Men interpretation should leave out, it is that working together as a whole. No one did it like that before House and Powers changed that. They made every mutant, and all it does is unleash creativity. You can make a Gold Balls work. Okay, you took that mutant with one power that is supposed to, in essence, be a joke type of power, and you're gonna fall in love with the character despite the power set. We have a lot of mutants around like that, but you can take that one power and put it with 4 other people and make something really special and meaningful, and have a real effect. They cannot lose that, because that is like, even within the MCU, like there have been the Avengers working together and stuff, using their abilities together. That's been a thing, but like the X-Men can really come in and be like, let me show you how it's done, and do amazing things. I don't want them to lose that. Okay,
let's get into something that Janelle can actually hook into here, because she managed to avoid a lot of this storm, smartly so. I did another article kind of talking about what's coming next. We have the X-Men relaunch beginning in July with From the Ashes. And there are 10 X-Men titles. There's an Avengers tie-in, but I didn't count that. Storm's becoming an Avengers, so spoilers long overdue. But what we have so far in order of release are a new X-Men book by Jed MacKay with art by Ryan Stegman, Phoenix by Stephanie Phillips and Alessandro Miracolo, NYX with Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing and Francesco Mattarino, and X-Force, Jeffrey Thorne and Marcus Toe, Uncanny X-Men with Gail Simone and David Marquez, an X-Factor book with Mark Russell and Bob Quinn, Exceptional X-Men with Eve L. Ewing and Carmen Carnero, a new take on Wolverine by Saladin Ahmed from Daredevil and Martin Coccolo, Storm book by Morera Ayudole and Lucas Wernick, and a Dazzler limited series by Jason Liu and Rafael Lorario. So on our article, X-Men Reboot Explain, what's coming next after Krakoa, you can find synopsis and kind of, because they announced these books like Fall of X. There was a lot of piecemeal announcements here, but we pulled them all together with all the synopsis for all the books. And what are some of your early favorites, Matt? What are you looking at? I guess I'll go first since I'm tossing the question. Yeah. I think I'm really interested in what Gail Simone is going to do with Uncanny X-Men. Like, that roster looks really kind of like the most X-Men 97-ish thing we're going to get. And I'm a big fan of Gail Simone, always have been. And I just even like some where she's kind of evolving into in some of her more recent work, like that Fantastic Four thing she did in Marvel Zombies, like still haunts me to this day. So I think there could be some really classic but new kind of good storytelling there. And the other one I'm kind of interested in is this new take on X-Force. I again, it's the combination of having, we just did our Mystique and Destiny wedding thing on the pull list, but Ascani and Captain Braddock or Captain Britain are an item that's going to be interesting. Sage, Deadpool, of course, being at the center of this, and some other characters I'm not as familiar with. I want to see where X-Force goes next. That's going to be cool. So those are two for me. You have any in the list early that you're looking at?
I think the book that Exceptional X-Men is the one that has piqued my interest the most because number one, it has White Queen and Kate Pride. And that is, again, Marauders connections. Okay. Like this has the potential to be something cool and in that vein, especially with those characters in the mix. Also, I feel like people aren't prepared for what Carmen Carnero is going to do. Like her work in Captain Marvel is fantastic. So she's going to kick ass with X-Men, I really think. And then the other one that I'm super interested about because it has all the potential to be a show stealer is MYX. Because if you've been listening to the pull list and you've been even following our comics discussions on ComicBook Nation, we have talked about a lot of Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing books. And we have raved about a lot of their books, especially on the Batman, the DC side of things. And so for them to take this kind of group of characters, including Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, but like what I was talking about earlier, like take characters that have different power sets and really explore that and explore how they're adjusting to life and things. This could be like a show stealer. Also, Francesco's work has done work over on the Power Ranger side of things. So gonna be a good mix there.
That's funny. You picked the two that I was going to say I'm the most nervous about because when these were first announced, you and I mean, we kind of talked about how they represented, various eras. Like it was like, okay, this is kind of, 2000. This feels like 90s to 2000s X-Men with like the Gail Simone. Some of the other X-Men stuff from Jed MacKay feels like 2000s to 2010s X-Men. And then Exceptional X-Men and NYX feel like the Gen Z kind of attempt at X-Men. And those are the two I was most nervous about. But, it's good to hear you have the optimistic faith in them. I always like the optimism. Janelle, as somebody we just kind of always throw into this, just looking at this random list of noise, is there anything that kind of sticks out to you?
I mean,
early?
Yeah, this is so me, but like Dazzler, like anything Dazzler is very exciting just because of the singing background and like the performing and all of that. But unfortunately, the whole Taylor Swift rumors with Deadpool have kind of like put me in a weird headspace with Dazzler. So as long as they don't cast Taylor Swift as Dazzler, or I can read this before, I know, Kofi's mouthing they are. Yeah, but I mean, I've always, it's kind of been like an ongoing thing. My own Twitch community has been like, oh, you're totally Dazzler. Like that's who you are as an X-Men. And so I've kind of hung on to that name and Dazzler for a long time. And so I was really excited to hear that. But then, the Taylor Swift always just makes me go, oh.
Oh, I say you could be a good Monet penance, There's like, if you know that, like, you're very
Monet
like,
St. Croix is awesome.
Yeah,
Oh my
there
gosh.
you go. And then when she goes full penance, if you ever cross
Man.
But
that's fantastic.
I like magic. I'll just stick with magic. It's cool.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
All right. So, we don't have to get too deep in this yet. This is all still kind of abstract for us all. But we're gonna be on it. Because just like House of X, we will be covering X-Men from the Ashes, both on the poll list in detail and kind of doing some loose references here on the live show. So stay tuned. It's going to get busy in July. All right, let's move it right along. R.I.P. House of X. Thank you for helping us get this podcast off. We're going to miss you,
That's
buddy.
nuts that it was 2019. That
Right?
seems so weird.
Right? All right. That went on longer than I thought. But Matt, we can go to something that falls squarely into your agenda for sure.
Oh yeah, and I'll make this, kind of quick because this is a teaser trailer of Moana 2. The kind of relatively surprising announcement when it was made. People obviously thought like, oh, we'll get a sequel, but I don't think anyone thought it would be coming this soon, and especially in a hey, by the way, it's coming later this year style fashion. We don't get those kind of drops very often. So Moana 2 finally released this trailer. And I mean, this movie it's beautiful. The first one was just, if you watch the first one, it's stunning. We get a, slightly older Moana, and we get it hits all the notes. I think Kofi, had the, in the notes, so like, is the magic still there, right? A little bit. And I think this one does a really good job of like hitting all of the notes of what someone loved about the first one. Like we get, the pig, we get hey, we get Maui, we get those moments, but it's not necessarily that they show up. It's like how they show up. And we give a lot of the focus of the trailer to the next kind of quest that's going to take her away from the island. But it's cool seeing her family, like a little bit older, seeing her dad and stuff. It's there for me. Moana is one of my favorite Disney movies. And I gotta say, like, I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now until Ember, because Ember went through a phase where, I'm not kidding, we watched it like 10 times in like a matter of a week and a half. And a lot of movies will get super old when you do that. This one does not. And I was incredibly surprised. I already liked it before, but I have grown in loving this movie. So I think this one, I don't forget what those little pirates are called in the trailer. I forget what their names are, but like what the actual group is called. But I'm super excited. I think they did a good job with this one. But I don't know, maybe I'm off base. Maybe it's biased for me. What do you guys think?
Funny enough, that whole note I left in the show note was just from Beetlejuice 2's trailer the week before.
Was it really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, I guess it still applies. All right.
It does kind of apply.
So I was like,
Kakamora, yes.
I have no dog in this fight. I've barely watched Moana. My daughter was kind of into it, but she never was like, that wasn't her thing. I spent a lot more time watching Kung Fu Panda, Zootopia, things like that.
Gotcha.
So, which now my son has rediscovered. So now I'm watching Zootopia all over again. Yeah, but I have no dog in this fight. I mean, I've seen it. It's a cute movie, and this looks like it's pretty trailer.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
Sure. No?
Yeah, I think it looks really good. I'm not seeing much like change from the first film to the second. I mean, it literally just feels like they're picking up right where they left off. So that's going to be interesting, like where the storyline goes. Like, I maybe would have been fine with an all grown up Moana with a family of her own, and like maybe her kid is doing something. But I'm not sure if audiences would be down with that. It could just be at the stage of life I'm in. But it looks beautiful. I think they're going to do a great job no matter what. But, if it's too much like the original, I want to get something new. I do want something new out of it. So, and I'm seeing a lot of repeat characters and things like that. So we'll see.
I just hope
sure,
that,
yeah.
My only hope for this movie is that The Rock's assistant didn't have to do that much heavy lifting during this, that it was just a vocal performance. And so none of those Voss bottles were required, So, all right. If you know, you know. Moving right along. Janelle.
Yeah.
We'll come to you when there's trouble in the MCU.
Oh, God.
What's going on?
Why am I the bearer of bad news? No. So there's been some word around town that Blade is getting another rewrite, aka a brand new writer. I actually could not find the name of who the new writer is, so I'm not sure if they've actually even announced that yet in the time that I started checking this out. But at this point, if this is true, we are on I think the 6th writer. The 5th writer was True Detective writer Nick Pizzolatto. I hope I'm saying that right. And it just worries me because when they first started this project, it was announced in July 2019. And there's been rewrites and new writers brought in and delays, and it's just been kind of a mess. And I've said from the beginning that this is one of my things that I'm most excited about for the MCU. And I feel like it should be one of the easiest things to do because it's a vampire movie. It can be like street level. It doesn't need to be this huge universe. It can just be like very, in its own world. And the fact that so many people are struggling to write for it makes me so worried. And they're saying that they're still looking to start shooting in the fall, but by golly, if you don't have the script written yet, how? Like, that's my question. And it just makes me so nervous. And I'm at the point now where I'm kind of like giving up hope on this. I've held on to hope for so long that I'm kind of personally feeling like maybe we should just let this go because it's clearly not what we were hoping it was going to be at this stage. What do you guys think about this?
So yeah, just doing the deeper research, it's been kind of rumored that Blade is getting knocked back to the script writing stages.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily confirmed, but what is confirmed is that Mahershala Ali kind of got up and joined the Jurassic World franchise this week for the next movie in that franchise. Delroy Lindo, who was attached to play the new kind of Whistler, has also jumped into that. He's like, man, y'all taking too long. So he went to Warner Brothers to join Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan on their vampire movie. And so he's now doing that. And so it just seems like while we're hearing these rumors, the stars of this project are also, taking other options, taking on other projects, all of which is a great sign, all of which, it's one of those, just kidding. It's one of those like the little guy sitting in the burning room means, and Marvel being like, everything's fine. But yeah, it's crazy that this movie is taking this long and having this much trouble, especially right now that we're having like a pretty exciting Blade centric event unfolding in Marvel Comics all over the place. And it's just like the comics seem to get it. It's just like showman doing stunts, killing vampires. We good. We figured this out back in 1998, and it's pretty nuts that like we can't get this off in the MCU. And
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I didn't realize it had been announced in 2019. Again, what is with that year? Was it in the comment? Well, number one, Brywood is like spitting facts in the comments. I say, how do you really? Because I echo those. How do you screw up? This is some nutty behavior. You got an Oscar-worthy actor want to fight vampires. What are we doing? I mean, it's kind of like seriously, like what is more to this than you have a 3-movie blueprint from the old movies of what to do and what not to do. And you got a lot of great stuff in there. So just focus on that stuff. And at the end of the day, like this isn't, Sentry or, where or Moon Knight, where you're taking like kind of some complex ideas and then pairing them with a superhero franchise and like trying to figure that out. I get how that can be a little more complicated, but we already have a Moon Knight series that like out and done. And this is just a vampire, like fighting other vampires. I don't get how this is crazy. And the fact that now we're losing people and they're not just joining, like like one-off like small pictures here, like, okay, I'll go do something for a month and then I'll come back. Like we're not talking about those. We're talking about like big franchise, like Jurassic World, big franchise, and then the other one, a possible franchise starter, right? Like you're talking about projects that will tie up time. So you're losing some key people. I don't get it, man. I don't understand why this one is
kicking everybody in the butt.
I just don't get it. So yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, just for further research. So Daniel RPK, who is celebrated Marvel insider, very reliable. And this has been shared over the internet. Here's what we heard. Blade is going through another round of major rewrites. The current writer, Michael Green, has left, and Marvel's looking for another writer. But somehow this is still set to start filming in Mexico or Brazil this fall. So,
How?
How,
do
Sway?
you do
How,
that?
Sway?
How do you do that without a script? I don't know how that you're gonna make that
movies
happen.
do it all the time. Like,
Well, I
let's be
know,
clear,
but like,
it doesn't. I mean, the odds of it turning out well are
exactly. Like to
Yeah.
me, the pressure is on the fact that you have now, and due to a lot of the reasons being given in reports for the past years of delays has been script, has been rewrites and all this other stuff, and then you're gonna come out with a movie, and if the writing sucks, everyone's gonna go, seriously? How do you not get that right? That's why you delayed it for 5 years. I don't get. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real interesting one to see. But all right, we'll keep you updated. We'll see what happens. But over on to a more positive note. Knives Out 3 is taking shape. Wow, this has changed significantly even since I've done the article that I did yesterday. So we learned this week what the Knives Out 3 title will be. It'll be Wake Up, Dead Man, which is a Beatles and U2 reference, I believe. It's a musical reference to musical albums. And always important to note in these Benoit Blanc mysteries, what kind of thing we're kind of referencing here. But the cast they've started dropping casts. Like, I guess Netflix is knowing how to market these things because every day they're just hitting us off like it's Fantastic Four or something. And they're just kind of hitting us with new casting names. And here's what we've gotten so far. Kaylee Spaney, who was in Priscilla and in Alex Garland's Civil War movie with Kirsten Dunst, will be starring in this one alongside Josh O'Connor, who was, oh my God, the ads on our site. Josh O'Connor, who was just in the kind of Zendaya tennis throuple movie Challengers. So he's going to be in this as well. Then we can start to scale up. Andrew Scott from Sherlock, who played Moriarty in Sherlock, will be joining the cast. Excellent character actor. Scandals, they bringing out my girl Kerry Washington is coming back outside and is going to be doing Knives Out 3. Glenn Close is going to be in there. Jeremy Renner just jumped on board after that. And that's what I wrote up yesterday was Renner coming in and doing his thing. And since then, we've gotten Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis is now in the movie. And right when we hopped on here to record, there was another announcement of Daryl McCormick from Peaky Blinders will also be starring in it. So, yeah,
Who's not in the movie?
I mean, at this point, if you aren't, like, you should be kind of asking about your career and what's going on because you getting left out. But yeah, and Daryl McCormick will also be in Twisters this year. I knew I had seen his name come up recently. So he'll be in the Twister sequel this year. Yeah, I'm all about it. Glass Onion proved that like Rian Johnson has brought back the kind of mystery whodunit in a fun, satirical way. Each of these films has had these underlying commentaries about our society and all of that, whether it was Glass Onion doing an Elon thing right in the perfect time before Elon went full Elon, or the original Knives Out and its whole kind of commentary on class warfare and all that. I'm really kind of interested to see what Wake Up Dead Man is about. I feel like, the musical albums have me wondering if it's going to be something about entertainment industry, something like that, which would be kind of really interesting. So, I mean, as long as you give me Daniel Craig back as Benoit Blanc and, the cast members get to kind of cut loose and have some fun, this is already sounding like it's going to be a fun ensemble of people to watch together. What do you guys think? Is this cinema?
Cinema. I mean, yeah, I'm excited about this. I think the casting sounds spectacular. And I mean, you put a bunch of great actors together and it's already a successful, franchise. Like we've already seen success with this before. I have really high hopes. I think this will be really fun. And, yeah, I mean, I'm more content. Like I'm about it. I'm ready.
What I like about it is each time he does this, you can't look at this cast and immediately pick out which actor is going to be like the sinister ones. Like you don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because there's some people like now when I see what's her name? Melissa, what's her name from oh my God, she's in everything. anyway, when you see her in any movie these days, you know, like, oh, she's gonna be something. She's like in the Equalizer and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Melissa Leo, yeah, whenever you see Melissa Leo in a movie, you're like, oh man, she's up to something. She's done something shady, and it's like you're usually right. Same with Ben Mendelsohn. You know, poor Ben Mendelsohn. Whenever you see him in something, it's rarely that he turns out to be like the good guy.
Yeah.
So I like that about this cast, and this is going to
Agreed.
be fun. So it's coming
Yeah.
to Netflix, I think, next year or the year after, 2026, maybe.
I just
So,
love a Netflix like streamer good
oh,
movie.
well, Janelle, then you'll like the latter half of this show because we're going to talk
Hey.
all about it. All right. Finally, we got a little clip. Then this is we just like to promote sometimes our comic book exclusives because we have people out there digging up scoops for you guys. And this week, our buddy Chris Killian got to sit down with a particular actor who may have a particular thing to do with the DCU. If we can run.
Noticed that you and James Gunn started following each other on social media. Now there's all these rumors you're joining DC and playing Booster Gold. So my question is, I just want to know if you're even interested in playing a superhero who isn't addicted to breast milk.
If there ain't milk, I ain't doing it, honey. No, it's listen, I think he's amazing. I cannot wait to see what he does with the DC universe. I think he's a phenomenal director, producer, talent. He's just, he's one of the biggest brains in the industry. So I'm excited to see what he cooks up.
Ooh.
You said your word, Kofi.
What did he say?
Let him
Yeah. He didn't say Riz, but that's okay.
He didn't say Riz, but he covered cook.
Yeah, no. So, why I wanted to include that is, I sometimes it's hard for, mainstream people to kind of translate PR training speak. But when you get asked that, Chris Killian, shout out to Chris Killian for doing a good job and not directly saying, are you in this? Because that's just results in a flat denial. Yeah. Chris is a pro, and he said, how do you feel about all this? And you can always tell with a media training answer, what's what. So if people don't have any involvement in this, a lot of actors are just like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you saying right now? The fact that Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander in The Boys, that was Anthony Starr from The Boys. If you're just listening to us,
God, he looks so different, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you take off those blonde wigs and stuff, and things go like totally. Different.
He looks like your uncle, like your nerdy uncle that plays Halo in the basement or something in that interview, and then Homelander is like the scary jock dude. Like, holy smokes!
Oh yeah, no, he's a good actor. I mean, if you've ever seen him in other things, he's a great actor. Like he's really doing
so good.
That boy is acting in The Boys. He's not just like putting on like his persona.
Yeah,
he is acting in that show.
He's totally playing this though.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. But that's the thing, Janelle. Even you picked up on it. Like he just praises James Gunn, and he knows the name of the DCU. You know, he knows all these things.
Too
and
informed.
His body language was crazy. Because he's just like making sure to keep guarded. He's like, don't spill the beans. You have it, son. Country. Like, get it out. Matt, I want to put this on here just so you could kind of cook for a minute about, is this hashtag your booster gold if that turns out to be the case?
I would not, if you had given me a list of people or had me come up with a list of people and say, come up with people who you think would be like, who could play booster gold. I wouldn't have put Anthony Starr's name on there, not because he's not a great actor, because I adore him in stuff in The Boys and outside of the show. Like, he's great, but it's just like I almost peg him as and a lot of it has to do with Homelander, but like the confidence is there. Some of the other things, like when I started to think about it, I went, he'd probably be a fantastic booster gold. I wouldn't have pegged him though, like initially, like that. I just don't associate him, with that, because like Booster is overconfident. He's the epitome of overcompensating. That is what Booster Gold.
Well, that's the thing. You're nailing it on the head, and I think that's what makes it genius. Is because when you step back and you really look at Homelander in season 1, especially, they established that Homelander is this person with godlike power, but like the emotional maturity of like quite literally an infant who's still breastfeeding, right? That's the whole dichotomy to his character. And Homelander is so insecure deeply insecure about himself as a lab experiment in this just kind of created hero. Like, in those scenes with Anthony Starr are some of the best, because the ways that Homelander compensates for that is he's doing this thing where, like, you know, he's doing this performance, you know, dramatic irony where the character thinks he's being genuine or straightforward, but we're like, man, you are insane. Like, and that's really hard to do. But I think he could do it for Booster Gold in a way where it's like the braggadocio, but underneath it, the massive insecurity, or just like, I'm not a hero at all, and in like all of that. I think he would be really good at that. And as a Distance Nerding podcast is saying, like, I think he could do the complete opposite of Homelander, this superpowered, you know, lovable, you know, superpowered confident guy, and just be this lovable idiot fumbling through trying to be a hero. He'd be hilarious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have come around full circle on the idea, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I think he would kill that. And then you get the right person later on to, like, you know, we've already got, you know, Ted established in the world, right? Like, he exists, but we don't like have an actor pegged to it. But like, you get the right person there to like have them play off each other going forward. That is magic. So yeah, no, I'm in on that if that happens. So
hey, just keep it in the Boys family and get Jack Quaid as Ted Cord. You know, have him lift a couple of weights.
Oh my god.
And have him and Anthony Starr just on screen together. That'd be hilarious. Because the few scenes you do get with what's his name in the Boys, Jack Quaid's character. Anyway, the few scenes you get Huey, and the few scenes with Huey and Homelander, I do love in that show. So I would put Jack Quaid up there as a good kind of nerdy Ted Cord who's been away trapped somewhere for a while and kind of come back. But that's just me. All right, Janelle, you have any thoughts about this?
I mean, I'm just blown away by this actor. So yes, I think it would be great. And I'm about it.
That laugh?
I love this.
What was that laugh Matt just did? That was like from It's Always Sunny or something.
Oh no, it was a laugh, and then you heard a dog from the other.
Okay.
From the other, there's a dog outside my door for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh,
that was nuts. All right.
I love the laugh.
All right. Well, that's it. And kind of breaking down what's going on in geekdom. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about some movies that are either on streaming or in theaters that you guys can check out. Oh, Matt, you got to get out of here? I didn't know you had a hard out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt's messaging me on the
you
side.
probably
Sorry.
just missed it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did. So me and Janelle, we're going to come back real quick. And then me and Janelle will get Matt's kind of quick little thoughts on Atlas before he gets out of here. And then me and Janelle are going to talk a little bit more about some other stuff. So stay tuned. We are back. Yes, we are back.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Matt, I got every single one of the things you slacked me except that final all-important message. So, Matt's got something important to do. But, you know, we had a big behind-the-scenes discussion about that Netflix movie Atlas, and there was an interesting take. It turned out we all unexpectedly like it. So, Matt, why don't you cook for a minute before you get out of here and tell us How you felt about Atlas?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think we've talked about the whole thing about whether a movie is better for streaming or theatrical release. And I think this is the perfect streaming movie. Like I just had fun like going throughout all this, and you get like the star, right? Jennifer Lopez. I'm already a Jennifer Lopez fan anyway. So like, I'm intrigued, right? I'm going to watch it. But as we get through the kind of this take on AI and, AI kind of gone wrong at this point and all this, there's this continuous lighthearted banter between Atlas and like the mech that she ends up learning that like is tethered to them and all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that happens throughout this movie, right? But like that, number one, doesn't happen right away. Like the whole tethering between her and the mech like does not happen until like I would say a good like 20-30 minutes in. And so as that like relationship is formed and like the AI is learning and basing their reactions to what she says and her mannerisms and the way she speaks. So like there's one funny part where like starts cursing and she's like, really, all the things I say, and you get that. Like, there's a lot of really fun banter that's happening throughout all this kind of epic sci-fi stuff. And I just thought like it was the perfect mix for me for when I'm looking in a streaming movie. Like I'm putting it on, it's typically either like super early in the morning before Ember wakes up, or it's like late at night after everyone's gone to bed and I'm like watching something. And this is the kind of like movie I'd watch, and I had fun with it. The action scenes kick. I thought, like there's clearly a budget here, and so I thought this was great. I had a lot of fun with it. And so again, I'm not saying it's, Oscar not worthy or anything like that, but I just, for what I was looking for, I thought this was really fun and I really dug it. But I don't know. I mean, am I off base severely?
You'll never know. You've got stuff to do.
That's right. I'm pushing it to the minute. All right, I gotta go.
All right, Matt.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you for listening to me ramble on, and I will catch y'all next week.
Yay, Matt.
All right. Matt's not big time unless he has an interview to do and if you know our industry, like talent changes interview times constantly. You're literally in front of the computer screen. You might end up waiting an extra 2 hours, or you might have to be an hour early. So, yeah, Matt has to go and handle.
It's the same way with doctor's appointments too. I've come to find out.
Right? It's all weird.
Everything. Nobody really ever like does anything on time these days.
No,
anymore.
It's all very strange, and some of the stipulations.
Oh, you're muted, Kofi. You got it. I think your mic checked out for a minute, or it could just be our terrible connection, but that's okay. So there you go. You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. My mic just dropped for no apparent reason. It just got tired of working. And it's not even on my mic right now. Hey, there we go. Am I back? Does that sound better?
You're back. You're still on the other microphone, but that's okay. You know what? This is a live show. This is how it works.
All right, Richard.
There you are.
Yeah, there I am. Okay.
Perfect.
That just dropped for literally no reason. That just happened. All right. So let's get into this. So yeah, to go on what Matt was saying, Atlas was made by Brad Payton, who used to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's boy on films like San Andreas and Rampage and Journey to the Mysterious Island. It was also written in part by Aaron Eli Colliette, who was in the late 2000s a writer for Ultimate X-Men. So there you go. There's a little bit of good comic bookiness to this. I put this on because we were supposed to do it last week, but things got really discombobulated. And, I try to always include some streaming for the audience who is at home and looking for stuff to watch. But I thought this was going to be really dumb. And I put it on and I was like, okay. Not Jennifer Lopez in a mech suit. Somebody in our comments already said it looked like the video game Titanfall, which was one of the video games of like the 2010s on Xbox 360 and like PlayStation 3. Great game. Basically, if you don't know what we're talking about, Titanfall is like this game where you fought as these soldiers on the planet, and once you had achieved a certain amount of power-ups, you could call for a huge mech suit to be dropped from the sky. And then you had to fight with the mech suits. And so there would be there was like one of those early kind of multiplayer deathmatch battles. And so it would just be human. You'd be either your human self with this grappling hook or a mech, and you'd be going at it. So Atlas was going to be dumb, I thought, but like Matt, I think it was the world building that got me into this, not necessarily the movie itself. I mean, a lot of the sequences are very Netflix kind of special effects and
Yeah.
that, but I appreciate that kind of dumbness. But the AI character that Jennifer Lopez gets kind of hooked up in, it's like somebody saw this movie and was like, hey, they probably could have gone, even more with those Tony Stark Jarvis scenes in Avengers movies, where it's just
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. doing face capture stuff. But good for them for recognizing that, because it is fun to hear Jennifer Lopez arguing with this AI character while trying to, survive in this mech suit. And there's a lot of shades of a comic series we've been reading on the pull list called The Last Mermaid, which is about a mermaid on a desert planet trying to survive in this mech suit filled with water. Same kind of concept.
Yeah, I
And
remember
so,
that one. That was cool.
yeah, there's enough kind of sci-fi and anime influences to this to make it cool and different, and also an actual story with emotional kind of stakes to it. And it's not the greatest story. It's kind of dumb. It's kind of, you see it coming, where this is all going, but it still has a payoff. And congratulations for Simu Liu, trying to getting to do something while he's waiting for Marvel to get his crap together with that Shang-Chi sequel. He plays kind of a scary character and is a formidable kind of, this whole imagining of this world of androids and mech suits and AI is very interesting. And if nothing else, I feel like this is a successful IP starter. Like, I would read or watch more in the world of Atlas, even if it's not with these characters. Like the whole soldiers unit bonding with their mechs, all that stuff is stuff I would explore more of. So yeah, like Matt said, I'd be pissed if I went to see this in a theater, but at home on streaming where I could stop and pause and come back, like, that's what happened. I would go and be doing other stuff, and then be like, when it was time for my leisure time again, and be like, I want to go back and continue watching that Atlas movie, see where that's going to go next. And I did it in about 3 stages, and it was good.
Yeah, I agree. I watched this all the way through on my iPad, and then I kind of regretted that, because I was like, gosh, I feel like this would have been really good to just sit down with some popcorn and watch with my husband. Really surprised. I had no idea what this was going into it. I just
I
saw,
had little.
yeah, it was just like space and J-Lo. That's all I knew. And so when it was actually AI, I was really pleasantly surprised and really happy to know that she wasn't just like a space explorer flying around space getting into some drama. The stakes felt really, really high to me right off the jump of the storyline. You're kind of like in it going, oh my gosh, like this is a big deal. Like this is really scary, what happens. And if you know me, I always say that we're going to die because like humans are going to get wiped out by AI. That's like my belief. So this really struck a nerve with me, and I really enjoyed it. We were talking about it on my stream last night, and I did have a couple people in the chat saying, oh, it was predictable and I didn't like it because of that. I actually disagree. I didn't, maybe because I didn't watch the trailer and I didn't know exactly what it was about. Of course it was predictable, like how it's going to end. Most of these films are, but like there were some twists and things that got me really excited. And I actually thought like the special effects looked pretty believable, pretty good. And the acting was good. J-Lo did a great job being J-Lo. I mean, I see her
There's
as
a level
J-Lo.
there's a level
Yeah.
of meta humor to this movie with her
Yeah.
just kind of like rolling around being a diva to this AI, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah. But I really was pleasantly surprised. And whenever I was talking, to my community, I was like, regardless, I recommend it for sure. Like you should definitely check it out. Also, like the supporting actors are great as well. So, and again, the special effects were not cringe to me, thank God. Because if they're really bad, I just can't get in it at all. And this really did not bother me. So, yeah, I liked it. I'll probably watch it again, honestly.
All right. And for anybody asking, it's on Netflix right now. So you can stream Atlas today. It's out there. And I mean, there's a reasonable question that I added to this. I don't know if we have all the time in the world to get into this, but I'm asking: is this kind of a point where we're proving that streaming is possibly killing theaters? Because this was the #1 movie on Netflix, I believe, last week, and
Mhm.
at the same time, at the box office, we had Furiosa out and Garfield movie, and we ended with the lowest Memorial Day weekend box office in 3 decades.
Whoa.
3 decades, guys. Yeah. Lowest Memorial
Whoa.
Day weekend box office, complete disaster.
I mean, if it was a Marvel film, I think it just depends on what it is. Like, we got to have big releases. Like, I know Mad Max is big to some, but like for outliers, for people who aren't like already fans or aren't into nerd stuff, it's not going to get people into the theater. Like, if it was like a Marvel release, a DC release, or something like Barbie, like, of course, like you have a bunch of people that will just want to go see a movie. But also, it depends on the weather. Memorial Day weekend, like if it's nice weather out, people aren't going to see movies. They're going to be outside barbecuing. So,
Well, I mean, especially today, I don't think like, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about the weather thing. I don't think people are taking the economy of weather into account in movies
yeah,
because, I mean, like our whole lives now are basically like living through superstorms or getting
truly.
extreme
Yeah.
or extreme weather, like extreme heat, where it's like
Yeah.
down here in Tennessee where it's too hot to be outside. I'm like, okay, kids, let's go out and play. In 20 minutes, my kids are like,
Uh,
can we get
or
out of here? And I'm
tornadoes.
like,
Like, we've
yeah.
had
And it's
some
just like,
scary tornadoes down here
yeah,
recently.
exactly. And so when we do get like a normal, reasonably okay, warm weekend,
Hmm.
like that is like
We
gold
take
now. So
advantage. Yeah,
yeah.
we really do.
So yeah, no, but the box office seems to be slowing down this year. It's kind of concerning. We're gonna keep an eye on it, but I mean, Atlas is at home for you. You can watch it, and it's not a bad Friday night.
Yeah.
All right, to kind of finish out the show today, I'm going to give you some quick reviews of some of the horror things that I've been seeing. I went out and went to this crazy screening in this private social club here in Nashville in some weird private Illuminati screening room
Oh my God.
to see Soho House. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went to go see In a Violent Nature, which is this new horror movie that has come out. It's basically Friday the 13th, but from the perspective of if it was you following Jason the whole time through the movie instead of like all these scenes with like the victims and the counselors
That's
and
really cool.
yeah. And so it's just about a slasher who comes back from the grave and starts hunting down this group of teenagers in Ontario, in the forests of Ontario, after they take some trinket that belongs to his mother. So it's just Jason, right? And so it is an interesting film. It was written and directed by a filmmaker named Chris Nash, who's kind of getting started, and nobody that you really know in it. It's a lot of lower. It's more indie filmmaking, but it's been generating a buzz because of its premise and of course like its relation and new kind of new age take on the slasher genre. And I will say it is interesting as a concept. It really is. Some of the perspectives not as loyal, like found footage. It can't 100% be what it's saying it is because you have to follow some other characters at some point, or this whole thing gets monotonous. But I will say, while it's getting points for its kind of innovation and its originality, and there are some really gnarly kills in this. When the kills happen, and there's one that is already iconic, that is a kind of takedown of yoga peeps. That
That's
is
me.
there's a scene in here you won't be able to unsee though. And every time you do one of your poses now, you're gonna get a little
Oh
shudder.
no.
So yeah. But admittedly, there is a lot of it's a slow indie horror movie. So there
Okay.
is, I mean, much of this film, as you're seeing the trailer we're watching, is literally a guy walking. You're literally
Wow.
just following him walking, and there's a lot
It's
of
like a video
cutscenes
game.
of him. Yeah, there's cutscenes, and what you're seeing in this trailer right now is pretty much a lot of the movie. Just this guy walking through different
Oh,
parts of the forest, kind of
Ducky Yogi.
getting up and then kind of finding these different campers and dealing with them. But it is definitely something that's going to stand out as a new horror filmmaker kind of making this debut and doing something that actually is within a genre that's been played to death, but manages to do something unique and different. So if you're a horror head, I do kind of recommend you see it, in whether it's in theaters. It'll eventually be out on Shudder and AMC Shudder and all that, so you can check it out there. But yeah, at least it's different. But there is a lot of walking, guys. There's just a lot of nature sounds and walking. Quite a lot of walking. Because Jason don't move fast, and Jason got to get from point A to point B. And a lot of times Jason doesn't know what he's looking for. He's just looking for the mystical trinket, and he's just going in general. And it's like, that's the most fascinating part. It's just watching this person, the killer, make decisions on which direction to go at, like a fork in the road, and being like, So there you go.
Oh my gosh.
That's in theaters now, so you can check that out. On the home front, I did not know it would be hitting, streaming so quickly, but I guess it didn't do so well in theaters, is the First Omen, which is now streaming on Hulu. And the First Omen is, as you can hear, is a prequel, another Omen prequel, this time kind of detailing the story behind Damien's birth and how that all came about, which is, in the original Omen, it's just said, that this satanic cult made sure he was born, and then he was given to a orphanage. And yeah, this one, the only reason I've tried to check this out a couple times in theaters, like coming off of screenings and stuff like that, but I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't do it. The only reason I really wanted to check it out is it has Nell Tiger Free, who is my girl from Servant, that excellent Apple TV Plus series. If you've M. Night Shyamalan's one of his better works in years. So if you haven't watched Servant, go back and watch that. But she was a screen queen in that. And yeah, it's an interesting take on the Omen, and what it basically does is reconstitute the entire mythology of the Omen for a franchise to continue with this new reveal about what goes on with Damien's birth and all that stuff. But it's also kind of slow, kind of boring. But then again, so are all Omen movies. Yeah. Like most of the Omen movies are just kind of boring. This one, I will give it credit, and I will give director Arkasha Stevenson credit. It is creepy. And when this movie does go into horror moments, it is super creepy. And there's imagery in here that, Janelle, do not watch this movie right now. Just do not. Like, absolutely.
I was raised Catholic too, so this is really.
No, I mean, I don't like, I was raised, somewhat religious too,
really
but I don't usually go, but like, I was watching this up here, like in this room upstairs that I'm sitting in last night in the dark. And yeah, I turned on a light because I do believe sometimes, like, I don't want to invite that demon time into my house,
Yes.
Like, I don't need anything too satanic, kind of like,
yep.
Even if it's just pretend, I'm like, I don't know if this is putting me in the vibes.
This is why you're in charge of the horror stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, it is very creepy.
Extreme horror. Matt is like animation, and I'm just like somewhere in the middle. Like,
I mean, that's fair.
Hang out in the sci-fi world.
That's a pretty good assessment of this podcast. But it's pretty creepy throughout, and there are certain images and scenes that are definitely like disturbingly dark horror stuff. So yeah, there's one that and of course it's all wrapped up with like pregnancy. Yeah, don't watch this right now.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah,
don't have to convince
me.
It's
streaming on Hulu now, which is a much safer bet than going to theaters for this kind of film. It hasn't been the greatest year for horror, I'm gonna be honest. I've seen so many just okay things, but between The First Omen and A Violent Nature, there's at least something creepy in both sides of the streaming theatrical side this week for you guys to check out. So I would give A Violent Nature like 3.5 and The Omen 3. All right, Janelle, let's end with this long-awaited discussion.
Oh my God.
Everybody in the world just wants a quick rundown as our final segment. How'd you feel about that Madam Web, though?
Dude, I can't even remember. I watched it last week, and for the life of me, I can barely even remember what happened.
You just described the whole Madam Web effect. Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there are way worse films in the world, right? But like, this is not a box office hit. This is not a theater film. Like, streaming, it's so fitting. Like, if it just went straight to streaming to begin with, I probably would have been like, hey, this is a great streaming show, like movie. I'm down with this. Like, but I did watch it with my husband, and when it was over, he was like, that was horrible. Like, so maybe I'm just being way too chill about things. But I also watched Dune 2, and Dune 2 was so awesome to me that I can't even really remember Madam Web, which is I feel bad. I really wished that it there was just more to this. It felt like a really long first episode of a series where they're like trying to introduce a character and like their backstory. It just was very strange for me. So, I mean, I'm not going to get, you guys have already seen this. I'm sure so many of you have. I'm mildly disappointed, but like, I'm glad I watched it finally.
So I have some funny stories about this. You know, we did a whole podcast. Go back and listen to our Madam Web podcast because we really went in on this when
Yeah.
it came out in theaters.
They
I think
did.
me kind of
They did.
But I admitted when I saw it that I fell asleep in part of this, and the part that I fell asleep on was when she goes back to the Amazon to figure out like
Oh,
the whole
wow.
thing. And
What a
I woke
part.
up, and I woke up with her just unlocking the powers. So I never knew. I had no idea there was this big reveal about her mom in what her mom was doing in the Amazon. That was like actually the best beat of this whole film.
It
I was
was.
like, this
Yes, it
film
was
actually has
heartfelt.
like a heart in
Yep.
and
Uh-huh.
like dealing with mommy issues. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
there's actually like a soul to this film. There was like a point to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I cannot explain to you how hard I was like laughing though, because my experience seeing this in the theater and missing that part was like, that was the most soulless, like empty movie. Like, what the hell was that even
Yeah.
built around? I had no idea. I
That
was
makes
so
sense.
confused.
Yep.
I had no idea because I never went back and read the wikis or anything. I had no idea that this was
Right.
even a big twist. I'm gonna be honest with you though. I was looking at this and I feel like Sony, I can't prove this, but I feel like Sony actually went through and
Did some
did a little
editing.
bit more time to edit and bump up the effects
Oh.
because things looked crisper and better
Yeah, the
than I
effects didn't bother
remember
me.
than I
Yeah.
remembered them ever looking in theaters. And I was
Yeah.
like, there, because a lot of those battle sequences, some of the dubbing on, I feel like they did a little bit more dubbing on, what's his name, old boy, Ezekiel Sims in
Mm.
the actual movie. It was so obvious that they were just clabbered together, whatever like ADR they had recorded from him to fit over whatever they cut this movie into, because it's very obvious they recut this movie into something completely different. It was obviously deeper about Dakota Johnson's things with her mom and all of that. And like, there were obviously those battle scenes, I think, were supposed to be an actual culmination of the movie, or at some point they were supposed to be like real heroes, and they just they cut all that stuff together and then just were like, all right, we'll just use it as a fantasy sequence. Like, yeah, all those fantasy sequences in this, just it's nuts. Eddie Raymond, who's in our YouTube comments, go back and just read articles about Ezekiel Sims and his voice dubbing in the theatrical release. People were like, it was very noticeable that it was pretty bad. So I don't know, but like, yeah, I don't know what like Sony's doing. It's just like they didn't commit to anything. This originally, I had hope for this movie because I thought it was going to be a Back to the Future story about ensuring Peter Parker's birth, because
that would have been amazing.
That was the rumor that originally that's what it was, and it was about Cassandra Webb learning that they're all part of this like web of life, making sure that they ensure there. It's kind of like a backwards, making sure I exist by making sure these events happen kind of thing, and that I get to be Spider-Person because I start Peter off on that journey, and it leads back to all of us getting spider powers. And that would have been really interesting if we had gotten that, with a kind of Back to the Future causality to it. But instead we got this, which looks like they just tried to scramble and make it, because Marvel was like, hell no, you're not saying Peter, you're not saying Spider-Man, you are not attaching us to this mess. And then they were just like, well, how do we just keep this self-contained? Demon of Nine on Twitch, no, the movie is not good. If I say you have two Netflix options to watch this weekend, Atlas or Madam Web, Atlas all the way. If you got three, TikTok cult.
Yeah. Take the TikTok cult.
TikTok cult. Yeah. So I think that's a great place to stop. Janelle, you have any further thoughts on Madame Web you'd like to share?
No, just Dune 2 is cool.
Yeah.
I like
You were just
Choo.
basically catching up on February and
Yep.
March of
Yep.
all the events.
Streaming.
But
Yep.
yeah. All right. So
It was
yeah.
great.
That'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. As you see, we've kind of gone around the bend and back, talking about everything from, the end of an X-Men era to what's going on in geek news and what's in your theaters and streaming for you in a variety of genres. But that's not all. We do so much more. So if you're wondering why we didn't talk about like the PlayStation State of Play event, well, our spinoff show, Quick Save, already did a live reaction to all that, which is now up on our feeds. So you can hear what's going on with the latest PS5 State of Play, which was to be honest. It was also, if you want to hear more about the end of the Krakoa era of X-Men, the new Ultimate Spider-Man, Green Goblin, and a whole bunch of other comic series that either debuted or had major things happening this week. Me, Matt, and Jamie Lovett did the poll list this week. Janelle did it last week. So we have tons of comic book content talk for you guys who are fans. If you're an anime fan, Anime Initiative also cooked this week, and where they were kind of talking, I'm trying to go to my list of podcasts, Sakamoto Days and anime's next great hits. They were looking ahead to see what is coming down the pike for anime and what you should be aware of. Phase Zero is over on their feeds. They're still getting ready for the road to Deadpool and Wolverine. Plus, there's been a lot of Marvel updates. As you saw, we touched on a couple here. So go over to Phase Zero if you are an MCU fan and check out everything happening over there. Also, new show alert. We are going to be getting into it on next week. We will be launching our show, Star Wars, The Acolyte Aftermath. Jamie Lovett and I will be kind of combining forces to bring you an after show for The Acolyte. The show will have us breaking down each episode. They'll feature some of the interviews with the cast and crew that are being done and will be done by us in coming weeks. Plus, we get a little bit more nerdy on the Star Wars stuff about what this all means and why you can geek out and impress your friends. So that's all the content. I mean, we got content everywhere. Janelle said more content, and we took that to heart. So we have stuff coming out of every lane of geekdom. Stay tuned, and thank you guys for showing up for the live show. As always, all our regulars, Eddie Redman, Bry Wood, Chris Chipperson, Treesus coming back into the fold. Always love to have you. Distance Nerding, everybody at Agents of Fandom. Whew, there's so many of you guys. I feel like I get nervous every time I start one of these because I'm going to be missing. Somebody yell at Damon for not being here, but Demon is here, but Damon's not here. We got our demons, don't got our Damons. And, yeah, Star Trek. People asking for Star Trek. Like I said at the beginning, Jamie Lovett is our Star Trek guy. We all look, guys, I'll just keep it real with you. We're a Paramount company, but I'll just keep it real with you. Yeah, we all thought Discovery kind of went out on a whimper. It was nice to know who Kovacs was and learn all that, but it was just okay. And we just didn't feel like it was enough. We thought about launching our sci-fi podcast around that, but there just wasn't enough there for us to discuss. But Star Trek Discovery's final season is now complete. The whole series is streaming on Paramount Plus. Also streaming on Paramount Plus is that new South Park obesity epidemic special, which I found hilarious, but so not appropriate to talk about here. We do not need to get into any of that. So if you want to watch that, I did my whole spiel for the company. And oh my God, we got a minute left. Janelle, the people have been asking for you to give your quick burn review of the latest episode of Doctor Who.
Oh my gosh. The latest episode of Doctor Who was crazy cool. This is one of my favorites so far. I was shocked with how little we actually had the Doctor involved. Ruby was spectacular. This actress is just crushing it as a companion. It was a little predictable. I kind of knew exactly what was going on right away, but I didn't mind it because I was living for the whole entire storyline and how it was going to be woven into this beautiful, long, cool episode and where it was going. I'm trying not to spoil because you guys really need to start watching these. So far, I am very pleasantly surprised with this season of Doctor Who. So keep coming back and we can keep talking about it for sure.
He's doing his job. My 5-year-old oh my God, he's turning 6 now. Yeah, I'm going to a birthday party tomorrow. My 6-year-old son has been begging me to start Doctor Who. Do you think he'll be able to
Wow.
jump into this one?
Yeah, I mean, this last episode was kind of a horror take, but it's not.
He needs
It's
fear.
more. It's spooky. It's not scary. It's not like a monster. It's just the concept of time is a little scary.
No, I'm in my Amblin bag these days. These kids need some fear. They need to
Okay,
know.
good.
Yeah,
It's a little deep. I will say that like this season has felt more geared towards adults. So it's not like flashy. There aren't like funny, like cute creatures blobbing around. Like it's a little bit, I don't know. We'll see. I'm actually curious what he thinks about it. I kind of want to know your like how he handles it. What he thinks
we'll
of
see.
everything.
We'll see if he makes it through an episode because
Yeah.
attention
Yeah.
spans are crazy these days.
I would probably
So-
start him off on like the very beginning, like the Christmas special or something, because it has like little goblins and things like that. So
Okay. All right.
That'd be
That's a
fun.
good tip. All right, guys. Sorry. We do it all for geek culture here, and sometimes we cannot remember to fit it all in. I almost forgot the whole of Violent Nature, and I went out and saw that movie and did everything. So that was Janelle's take on the latest Doctor Who, and I think we'll start getting her takes every week. So keep you guys updated on what she thinks. All right. That's it for Comic Book Nation. We did the thing today. We're getting out of here. We're going to enjoy our weekend. We hope you guys enjoy yours. Read some comics. Watch some great content. Go out to the movie theater if you're kind of so inclined after Memorial Day weekend. And hit us up on Twitter. Subscribe to us on all the feeds. And we'll see you guys back here for another live show next Friday. We are Comic Book Nation. Peace.